check in with him again throughout the day. You are listening to a special Sounds of the Season edition of Here and Now. We're live from the Glenn Gould studio, and you can also find us streaming live on CBC Listen. Over the summer, the Canada Disability Benefit Act was passed in Parliament, and it will provide federal money to low-income, working-age people with disabilities, many of whom are struggling to cover daily living expenses like food. But many details still need to be worked out before payments start. Rabia Khedr is the National Director for Disability Without Poverty, a group working to end poverty for people with disabilities in Canada. She's good enough to be here on the program with us today. Thank you for coming in.
Thank you for having me.
So first and foremost, can you tell us more about this benefit and how it is expected that it could help some families?
Well, people with disabilities, over 50% of people who are food insecure are disabled people. The latest stat on disability across Canada is 27% of our population is now disabled. Previously, it was set at 22%. And 4 in 10 people living in poverty are actually disabled people. So life is really, really tough. They can't have good food to eat. They don't have affordable housing. And they're being forced to either ask for charity on the street, online, or line up at food banks or depend on the charity of others.
That is such a staggering amount when you think about how many people are using food banks, 1 in 10. And then to hear the stat that you just said about more than half of them also are living with a disability. Can you talk about like how much do they have to spend after they're getting their, social assistance? How much money is left on the table from the research and from what you're seeing?
What we keep hearing from people, for example, specifically in Ontario on ODSP is, the second or third day into the month, they have no money left because the poverty line in Toronto is about $2,300, and that's around the national average. The average person on assistance in the province of Ontario receives a maximum of $1,300 approximately. That's at least $1,000 below the poverty line. Nationally, people with disabilities living in poverty, depending on provincial benefits, are getting 30% below the poverty line. Living with a disability often costs 30% above the poverty line. There's no money left.
As the National Director of Disability Without Poverty, what got you motivated to be involved with this work?
Well, I am a person with a disability. I came here as an immigrant child. My parents worked hard. We had a roof over our head. We had food, but we didn't have leftover money for extra things. And people with disabilities aren't asking for extra. They're asking for that basic. So as somebody who can speak truth to power, I may be blind, but I have the communication skills to get the message across. I feel it's my duty to express and voice for those who cannot.
And Rabia, I know that the details are still being worked out in terms of the Canada Disability Benefit, but what would you like to see in terms of who would be eligible for this?
Disabled people who, through no fault of their own, cannot make a livable income, cannot work enough hours because of the nature of their disability, or simply folks with intellectual disabilities like autism who maybe don't even understand in some cases, depending on the severity of their disablement, that what work really is. They just physically cannot do it. Everybody wants to work and earn and be productive and pay their own way. In some cases, some disabled people just simply cannot. And it's a duty upon us to give them the best Christmas present we can this season, give them the Canada Disability Benefit.
And how much money would you like to see as a part of this benefit
We,
provided to people?
we want people nationally lifted up to the poverty line. We're not asking them to be lifted above the poverty line and have extra money left over. We just want them to be able to afford painkillers, pay their rent, buy their children winter gloves.
CBC reached out to the federal government to learn more about the benefit rollout. And in a statement, the government said that timing is dependent on several factors, including regulations, which should come into effect as late as June of 2025. What's your reaction to that timeline?
They don't have to take that long. They know what needs to be done. Where there's will, there's a way. We got money out to able-bodied people during the pandemic. We can get it out to disabled people if we truly embrace this as the national emergency or crisis of poverty that it is.
What's at stake if they take until then?
there will be disabled lives lost. Essentially, we hear from people like Madeline month to month trying to, survive, not thrive, but just survive with her basic needs. If she cannot get, the medication she needs, the basic needs that she has met through the money that she can pull together somehow, she's considering medical assistance in dying. We've given people the legal right to end their lives with dignity. We need to give them a chance to live with dignity.
Rabia, thank you so much for coming on the program and using that good, strong voice to tell us all about what you'd like to see at the Disability Without Poverty organization. We appreciate your time today.
Thank you.
And your donations, of course, help to lift up the food banks that are trying to support people. And as we just heard, more than half of those people are people living with disabilities. And so if you're following along with us here on our special live broadcast, Sounds of the Season, you can also get involved. Head to cbc.ca/SOTS, that's SOTS, or call